Thank you for joining us. Again, it's the International Coaching Day of International Coaching Federation Nigeria chapter. We're happy to have you here. So happy to have all of you join us. Please let us know where you're joining us from. Are you a coach? And yeah, just welcome. All right, so we are going to move on. Please notice that we have a question and answer section of the platform where we will be entertaining your questions. So whatever questions you have, questions for the panelists after they have spoken, questions for ICF Nigeria, we will be happy to answer your questions. I have other board members of ICF Nigeria who will be providing answers to your questions. So please feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A section. Also, we will be having questions for our able panelists as we go on. So thank you very much for joining us. At this point, it gives me a pleasure to have the president of ICF Nigeria chapter, Mrs. Adora Ayoade, who will have the welcome and opening remarks for today's event. So over to you, Adora.
Oh, thank you very much, Lanre. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Adora.
Awesome. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I trust everyone is well, everyone is safe, keeping safe. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for dialing in. It's really a great day today, and we are very delighted to have such experienced group of panelists who are going to be sharing with us on the transformational impact of coaching. So for those of you who I haven't met, I'm seeing so many different names in the chat box. My name is Adora Ayoade, and I am the president of the International Coaching Federation Nigeria chapter. Now, International Coaching Federation Nigeria chapter, for those of you who are not familiar with us, also called as ICF, we are part of a global body. And we have presence in over 140 countries, and we've got over 39,000 coaches all over the world. Today is a very special day for us because it marks our International Coaching Day, which is also part of our annual International Coaching Week. And also this week, we are celebrating 25 years of ICF's existence as being the leading and the largest organization globally of professional coaches. So it's celebration all the way for us, and we are pleased that you are part of that celebration. And so therefore, I am very confident that our deliberations this evening will be very fruitful and that there will be a lot of learning as you unpack and get clarity about the transformational impact of coaching. So welcome once again, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Adora. Thank you for that welcome. Of course, again, it is the International Coaching Day of ICF Nigeria chapter celebrating. And as part of celebrating coaching, we are giving out gifts of coaching. And I know most of you who are registered for this event, you already indicated interest in our gifts. So after this program, we will reach out to you within the next 24 to 48 hours to let you know how you will redeem this gift of coaching. You will experience coaching with certified ICF coaches over the next few weeks. So you have up until the end of the month of May to redeem your gift of coaching. We will be introducing the two platforms where you'll be able to redeem these gifts of coaching. We have the Coach Me platform and the Coffee Chat platform. So once you have indicated interest in the gift, you will get directions and notification of how to redeem that. All right, we have a packed evening for you. We also have companies that have supported us in putting this together. We particularly like to thank Narita Learning Center, who are gold sponsors for this event. And as we go through the event, we will recognize silver sponsors, bronze sponsors, and indeed a numerous number of donors who are supporting ICF Nigeria chapter. But to get to the business of the day, I see different people from different organizations, different locations. Let me say welcome again and thank you for joining us. My name is Lanre Onosoya. I'm Director of Programs for ICF Nigeria Chapter. So it's a pleasure to have you here. Now, to the business of the day, we have a very, very amazing lineup of panelists that will be doing justice to our discussion today. So I'm going to introduce our panelists. Hopefully you know most of them. I will start with our Honorable Commissioner for Establishments, Training and Pensions in Lagos State. That is Ajibola Ponnle, JP as we fondly call her. She's also, for those who may not know, a trustee and the founding president of ICF Nigeria Chapter. Ajibola Ponnle, in her role as the Honorable Commissioner, is responsible for capacity development and establishment needs of 65,000 people in the Lagos State government. So she's an accomplished and result-oriented consultant and coach who is passionate about human-centered change and unlocking potential in Africa. Ajibola has a BSc in economics and MSc in organizational behavior. She's a chartered accountant. She's a chartered tax practitioner with 26 years experience in various fields, ranging from finance and business audit to team development and coaching. Ajibola started her career with Arthur Andersen, now KPMG International, and she worked in various units in that organization, and then was an instrumental member of the Culture Change Project after the merger of BAT, British American Tobacco, and Nigerian Tobacco Company. And she was also the executive secretary to BAT's top team. Apart from being an organizational psychologist and certified professional coach, Ajibola is also an Energy Leadership Index Master Practitioner. She is a British Psychological Society certified test user and a trained AC assessor. Ajibola has consulted for many blue chip companies before she was appointed the Honorable Commissioner for Establishment, Training and Pensions in Lagos State. We are very happy to have you on our panel, Ajibola. Thank you. I will also move on to our next panelist, Mrs. Oyeyimika Adeboye. Oyeyimika Adeboye joined the board of Cadbury Nigeria PLC as Finance and Strategy Director in November 2008. She was appointed Managing Director of Cadbury Nigeria PLC on the 1st of April 2019 and Cluster Director of Mondelez International West Africa on the 1st of July 2019. She's also a director on the board of Cadbury Ghana Limited. Prior to joining the Mondelez International Group, Mrs. Adeboye was the Chief Financial Officer and Director of Finance at Nigerian Bottling Company PLC. She also had worked for the Nigerian accounting practice of the erstwhile accounting firm Arthur Andersen & Co. and the UK accounting practice of Midgley Snelling & Co. Chartered Accountants, where she also trained as an articled clerk after graduating with a bachelor's degree in economics and social studies from the University College Cardiff in Wales. Mrs. Adeboye is a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales and a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in Nigeria. Oyeyimika is a member of the board of Odutola Holdings Limited, a family-owned group of companies. She's also a member of the board of trustees of the Timothy Adeola Odutola Foundation, a family-owned philanthropic foundation set up for the purpose of providing educational, industrial, and technological development of Nigerian youths who may be unable to gain access to higher education. As part of Oyeyimika's philanthropic work, she is a member of the board of trustees of YEO Foundation, which provides various initiatives to empower less privileged women. She also contributes her time to partner with Handmaidens Wheels, a Christian NGO which seeks to mentor and empower professional women along an ethical career path. We are indeed privileged to have Oyeyimika Adeboye on our panel this evening. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, to the gentlemen on the panel, we have on the panel Mr. Ben Langat, who is the Managing Director of Friesland, Campina, WAMCO, Nigeria, PLC. I'm sure we all know the organization. He joined the board as Managing Director on the 13th of March, 2017. Ben has over 26 years experience acquired through working in leading multinationals, including Unilever and Coca-Cola before his current position at Friesland, Campina, WAMCO. He has extensively worked across African markets, holding various senior management positions in Kenya, Malawi, Ghana, and Nigeria. He's a passionate person who delivers results consistently through empowering teams, putting in place talent development plans with a strong focus on continuous learning, mentoring, and indeed coaching. Ben is active in industry association and is the past vice president of the Association of Foods, Beverages, and Tobacco Employers of Nigeria. He's an active member of the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, as well as the past council member of the Kenya Institute of Management, amongst others. Ben is an alumnus of Harvard Business School Advanced Management Program, AMP 191, of IMD Lausanne, and London Business School and other institutions. He's a holder of the Bachelor of Commerce degree, Master of Business Administration, and a certified public accountant of Kenya. Ben is married with 4 children. Ben will say Asante Sana and Karibu to our panel. Last but not the least member of the panel is from academia, Dr. Emmanuel Imafidon. Dr. Emmanuel Imafidon has over 3 decades of career path experience transcending the education, manufacturing, and oil and gas sectors in Nigeria. He was the Director of Human Resources and Medical in Chevron Nigeria Limited, and subsequently the Director of Business Services in the same company, leading up to his disengagement in 2018. Prior to these 2 roles, Dr. Imafidon had worked in different managerial capacities in the HR function of Chevron Nigeria Limited and the Nigerian Tobacco Company. He had also lectured in the upper 6th form in Federal School of Arts and Science, Lagos, before his foray into the private sector. He's currently the executive in residence at the Lagos Business School and the academic director of the school's coaching services program. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Imafidon. We're very happy to have you on the panel. Good, so those are our panelists. I'm sure you're excited to have them and you're looking forward to have them share their experience. So not to take too much time, I will just have a moderator for the evening, Habiba Balogun. Habiba Balogun is the CEO and lead consultant of HBC. Habiba is a trustee of ICF Nigeria chapter. She's a seasoned coach, an executive coach, and Habiba is involved in various organizations and NGOs driving and building capacity in Nigeria. So at this point, I'd like to hand over to Habiba, our moderator, to take us through today's event.
So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining ICF Nigeria at our International Coaching Week 2020. We always have an exciting lineup every year, and we're not going to allow COVID to beat us or to get us down. Those of you who've taken up the gift of coaching, we're excited and looking forward to giving you some free coaching sessions so you can experience the transformational impact of coaching for yourselves. Thank you to our president, Adora, Larry, our able MC, and the other members of the expo who put this together. So let's get started because we've got an amazing lineup, and we really want to hear from them. Just to open up, I have a little statement to make. You know, we were all expecting, I know I have a lot of clients in the financial sector, in the development sector, manufacturing sector, and they were all preparing for digital transformation. They thought digital transformation was going to be the huge disruptor to their business. And over the past few years, myself and many other consultants have been working to prepare the way for them. Instead, that expected disruption has come in the form of this catastrophic disease, COVID-19. And it's succeeded in turning the world on its head. Within 3 months, just 3 months, our world has transformed beyond our wildest dreams. In fact, I saw a notice in a bookstore that said the science fiction and fantasy section has been moved to current affairs, because all those, doomsday, Walking Dead scenarios, it almost feels like it's happening today. It's crazy. This is reality imitating fiction. And as professionals, as coaches, and as professionals in our various industries and sectors, most of us have found ourselves dropped right back to the bottom of the learning ladder. Despite close to a decade of having the full suite of digital products to enhance every aspect of our lives, from social media, GPS, to mobile banking and distance learning, with the physical world rendered unsafe by COVID, we were unconscious of the level of our incompetence when we had to abruptly shift all our operations, our communications, and our engagements to the virtual world. Most of us, individuals, teams, organizations, and even nations, are having to feel and find our way to what will become the new normal. We're not quite sure what new normal will look like. For leaders, in our personal lives and in our organizations, we are dealing with an unprecedented bouleversement, as the French call it, an overlaying of personal needs, business needs, biological needs, financial needs, emotional needs, social needs, all overlapping, and the list goes on. The coaching profession, as with other professions, has had to change and shift to support our clients and humanity across all areas of their lives. Very few coaches in Nigeria used virtual coaching on an equal footing with face-to-face sessions. For now, almost all coaching is virtual. The demarcating line between coaching, counseling, and therapy was very clear before. Coaches don't give you advice. They help you think, feel, see, hear, analyze, decide, and act. I recently attended counseling training, and more coaches are following suit, adding extra skills to their toolbox to straddle more than one area. Right now, clients need coaching more than ever before and would really benefit from a professional they can trust to help them look objectively at their fears, consider the bigger picture, identify opportunities, reconnect with their values and their strengths, look ahead, set goals, and develop short-term plans to navigate our radically changed landscape. In life coaching, there has been greater emphasis on stress management, managing uncertainty, and remapping lives. In executive coaching, the emphasis has shifted from career goals to demonstrating inclusive leadership in a crisis. So to kick off, and before I ask our panelists their first question, I would like to ask all the coaches in the audience today to please type in the chat box. Number one, the type of coaching you offer, and two, any changes you have noticed or are experiencing in your own coaching practice. Let's type that in right now in the chat box. What type of coaching you offer, and any changes you have noticed or are experiencing in your own coaching practice. So while you're busy chatting away, I will open up to my panelists. We have 4 high-profile and accomplished panelists. You've heard their profiles. They have experience over public sector, private sector, producing sector, which is critical right now, and the academic sector, which has been shaken up as much as we have, perhaps even more, to share with us their experiences and thoughts on the transformational impact of coaching in their personal and professional lives. Let me start with Ajibola Ponnle, the Honorable Commissioner for Establishments, Training and Pensions in the Lagos State Government, fondly known as JP. JP, after a successful career in international management consulting, you reskilled as a certified coach and made coaching your profession until your appointment to the state government. What gap or opportunity did you observe in organizations that you felt consulting and training could not fill, that led you to enter coaching when it was still in its infancy in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much, Habiba, and all the trustees and coaches in ICF. It's a pleasure to be here, but I'm really excited to be here with you today. And I'm more excited to see how ICF has grown. We have about 265 people on the call, and that's amazing. So my journey to coaching, it was extremely accidental. I had, from when I started with team development, I left accounting, went into event management. Event management led me to team development as one of the fastest subsectors of the specialized event industry. And we'll do these team development sessions with teams, and we found out that, they would identify their goals, they'll identify what blocks them, and the barriers to them achieving their goals, and they'll develop their own solutions to moving their teams forward. And we always go in 6 weeks afterwards. So anytime we go in, we found out that those amazing solutions, the energy that we had at the initial session, the solutions were not always adhered to. The changes that they committed to were not always followed. So, for me, I came from accounting, which was very, input in, input out, was very predictable. I just couldn't understand why people could not just stick to a goal and stick to it, choose a goal and stick to it. So I started researching into sustainable behavioral change. And that's where I came across coaching, especially leadership and team coaching, to fill that gap. So, and I realized that once we started coaching the leaders, coaching the teams, the ability for them to be held accountable and to deliver on those changes was greatly enhanced. So that was how I got into coaching.
Okay, and how are you using those insights in your current role?
Sometimes I think for me it's mix and match, because until I came into the public sector, I thought I had it all together with my coaching. I was a coach. When coaching is not something that you learn. Coaching is who you are. You are a coach. So the way you listen, the way you question, the way you show up in your environment is just natural, is a natural part of you. Those changes are natural. Then I came into the public sector, and I realized that, the environment was so different, and it just threw me off course. And, I went into panic mode for a while. But the great thing about coaching, and the great thing about even being a coach, is that you also have the ability of having a coach. So I do, despite the fact that I'm a coach, I still have a coach that I work with, especially with this very new environment. Having said that, we're also introducing coaching to Lagos State. And we have a couple of initiatives that we've started already. We have, we're coaching the Executive Council. So we have honorable commissioners and special advisors who have elected to go through executive coaching. And, for us, we're just starting. So I'm really, really excited about that. And we're also trying to build internal coaching competencies as well. And we're taking a group of 15 people internally through coaching certification, so that they can add that to the mix of the employee assistance programs that we would implement there. So there is definitely a huge role for coaching within the public sector.
Okay, so let's a quick follow-up question, which is, what are the specific challenges or developmental needs in the public sector that you feel coaching will address?
Okay, for coaching, I think when I was introduced to ICF, International Coach Federation, I fell in love with the motto for ICF. And the motto simply says, in service to humanity flourishing. And, it's such a simple statement, but for me, quite deep, in service of humanity flourishing. And I thought about it. I thought about our nation. I thought about the continent of Africa. And, I just said to myself, what if Africa truly flourishes? What if we're able to unleash the potential of this amazing continent? We have a lot of resources, not just human, natural resources. What if we can unleash that potential? So in Lagos State, we've been going through transformation after transformation for several years now. And I like to think of it as more of an evolution. There is a culture shift process that's been going on for a while, which is called the growth mindset. Is really getting the public sector, the workforce to open up with their thought processes, with the mindset from a closed mindset to a growth mindset, open mindset. So, for the culture change that is required for the public sector, I think coaching can play a huge part. There's no nation that can develop beyond the level of development of its public service. It's just not possible. So, the services and products that we experience as citizens of Nigeria is, for me, a direct reflection of the public service. So, there's a lot of effort from the federal level to even the state level. Lagos State has done a lot of work over several years. So with the culture change, with the leadership transformation, leadership development. So there are quite a few areas, but those two for me would be the greatest two. And of course, accountability as well, ensuring that, the projects and the mandates that we have, the projects are actually evaluated. We're held accountable to ensuring that we achieve all the KPIs and initiatives that the government has in store from year to year.
Okay, thank you very much, JP. Thank you. So before I move on to my next panelist, we have a question for the audience. We'd like to hear your thoughts. We want to know how you think coaching would best serve leaders in the public service at this time during this crisis, because they are really the frontline workers right now. So when we say the public service, we mean our federal executives, our state executives, senators and representatives, commissioners, judges and magistrates, chief medical directors, vice chancellors, executive officers of ministries, departments, and agencies. How do you think coaching would best serve leaders in the public service at this time? Do you think it's by helping them manage the stress that they're under, because they're under unprecedented stress? Or do you think it's helping them process what is going on? Because some of them too are like, is this real life or am I in a dream? Is it to help them build resilience and greater capacity to deliver? Is it to help them strategize, to communicate difficult decisions, or to make life changes, either as professionals opening their mindset, having that growth mindset, or other life changes? Because many of them only use the phone, digital. The only digital thing they did was Facebook, perhaps. So now being forced to work remotely and have virtual meetings. I mean, I know Lagos State is an outlier, so I don't want to use Lagos State as the example. So how do you think coaching would best serve public service at this time? Managing stress, processing what's going on, building resilience and capacity, strategizing, communicating difficult decisions, or making life changes. Okay. So please just enter your answer in the chat, and then we'll ask JP for what she thinks at the end of the session. So I'm going to direct my next question to Ben Langat, the Managing Director of Friesland, Campina, WAMCO, Nigeria, which is one of our huge organizations. Ben.
Yes.
Multinational hello, lovely to see you.
Hi. Yeah.
Multinational organizations were early adopters of coaching. Some of your previous employers, I heard your profile, some of your previous employers were among those early adopters of coaching, even in Europe and in North America when coaching first started. For many multinationals, they start coaching by training their supervisors and managers in coaching skills. And then their executives, they ask them to have external coaches. And then they realize, I think we need some more capacity, and they built internal coaching and mentoring programs with their own in-house trained coaches, the same thing that JP just outlined for us, that Lagos State is doing. So please share with us the extent to which Friesland Campina WAMCO uses coaching as a development tool. You know, what's the framework you use?
First, let me say a very big thank you for welcoming me and allowing me to share my reflections on this, and also big congratulations to ICF for having this forum, because the differentiation between Africa in the future and other parts of the world comes from transformational thinking and coaching of this nature. So there's a big contribution into where we will go that comes from coaching. The second thing is, before I go to answer your question, is when we talk about COVID today, we all expected that the next disruption will come through digital, which you are right. And but COVID came to be the disruptor. But if you look at it, digital is the fixer. So we have to learn to do new things and to learn very fast. And those individuals and organizations that have ability and agility and flexibility to learn quickly and adapt to it will come up as winners at the end of the day. And you're right, organizations like ourselves, Friesland Campina, I also worked in global organizations, Coca-Cola and Unilever. They have been very early adopters. At Friesland Campina WAMCO, we use coaching as a very important tool to our continuous performance as an organization. And it's a hybrid of things. We do it in more than one methodologies. I'm sure the consultants will know a little bit more around that. But if I put it in a nutshell, the 3 C's is very key to us, which is the counseling, consulting, and cheerleading, which really addresses the soft parts of the person, ensuring that they are prepared and coached very well to that. But then there's also the actual performance side of it, which is linked to it, which brings in the GAPS model, goals, assessment, planning, and support. Coaching is only effective and important at the end of the day if it delivers 1, development of the individual, and 2, results for the business. So there has to be a way of measuring and ensuring that this happens in real life. We have continuous formal coaching sessions. So we have a total of 28 trained coaches and mentors, 11 mentors, and other leadership advisors that go into that. But even beyond these certified coaches, I believe every leader, every senior person, or everybody who has people under them have a coaching role. It can be very short time, it can be very long time. I consider myself to be coaching all the time, and also to be getting coached by other people all the time. But the formal process that we use actually sees people being selected through their individual development programs. They come into a coaching program as one cohort, and then they support each other, and then they have almost like a graduation, and then another cohort will come into that, and the advisors support them through that. But there are 3 pillars that are important to us in WAMCO. One is, apart from what I've talked about, which is really on the business performance and individual performance results that come with that, continuous learning is very important, and probably that's why you saw it in my profile. Mm-hmm. If people do not continuously learn, they stall. And if you try to coach somebody who has stalled, it becomes a bit difficult to get the result that you want. And that is why I mentioned what you mentioned earlier, COVID and digital. So if people have not been learning digital, trying to adopt digital, suddenly we are forced into this. And I can see from our business, because we are always actively learning, I can see that we are moving fast on some of these things because the mindset is supporting and adopting a continuous learning. So we have a very modern learning center, which we commissioned last year, which actually takes all these lessons through digital. So learning is very key, coaching is very key, and mentorship, which come along, which is really people who work along with you in the long term. I can share more thoughts on that and more reflections, but for now, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. So very, very comprehensive. You take coaching very seriously, and it's part of an integrated model for your learning and development and for your performance management. And you said it has to deliver development for the individual as well as business results.
Right.
So with 28 trained coaches, you said 28 trained coaches, mentors, and leadership advisors. What kind of investment is that for your organization in terms of budget, in terms of hours of their time? Because I presume that these coaches have their business, their work roles already. Yes. So what investment is it in terms of hours and in terms of budget that you're devoting to this?
So when I look at it, I got some statistics. In a quarter, we spend about 1,764 hours on coaching, which is equivalent to about 74 days equivalent. The actual financial investment that goes into it is around about 50 million annually. But bear in mind, a lot of the additional investment, which is not even quantified, and I count that a lot. Every day, every other day, there's a session which goes on, or there are conversations of this nature like now. People are getting coached now, which you won't even quantify. To me, the greatest return of coaching and of developing people in this manner is in the performance of the business. And when the business performs very well, then you are confident that the return that you put in is very good. But we actually track those numbers and those hours. Okay, so that takes me to my next question. You know, how do you measure the impact of coaching in your organization? What kind of results have you registered? And well, I mean, demonstrate it. Yes, you can demonstrate it through a particular case if you would like. Yeah. Okay. First of all, there has to be a link with the individual performance. So if you see that people have gone through coaching, sometimes you have people who, for different reasons, it could be personal reasons, it could be capability reasons, different. Their performance is below expectation. So we have 3 measures: below expectation, meeting expectation, and excelling or outstanding, as some organizations will go through. Now, when you take these people in these different forums, in these different performance levels through coaching, you can be able to see at the end of the year how their performance on the individual objectives comes in, but also you can see their behavioral objectives coming in. So as the individual objectives which come through, and by the way, those aggregate to the total business objective. There's no way you'll have a high performance on the business and then individuals are not performing well, and vice versa. There's a relationship with the business performance. But on the other hand also, we see it coming through measures like people surveys, engagement surveys, and results on how people feel, which we run an annual survey. So they will tell us and they'll give us feedback that we are comfortable, this is where we are. So you can actually be able to see through the different metrics of performance where the person, where they are now, how their results are. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I'm going to move on to our next panelist. I mean, because that was absolutely fabulous, Ben. Thank you very much. But before I do that, I want to come back to our audience, our participants. If you have received coaching in any form, whether life coaching, wellness coaching, leadership or executive coaching, or any other form of coaching, I'd like you to share in the chat what the experience was like for you as a coachee, as a person being coached, and the impact it had on you on the short and medium term. So if you've experienced any form of coaching, I'd like you to share in the chat what the experience was like for you and the impact it had on you in the short and medium term. And for those of you who haven't been coached yet, that light still awaits you. What impact have you seen in colleagues or family members who have received
if you know anyone who's received coaching, what impact have you seen? What behavior change have you seen? So if you can just communicate in the chat. And I'll move on to Oyeyimika Adeboye. So Oyeyimika Adeboye is someone I feel honored and privileged to introduce, not because my other panelists are less honorable, but because as a gender champion and as a diversity champion, I just feel that we have a lady who is the managing director of one of our biggest companies in Nigeria, Cadbury Nigeria PLC. She's become a role model to professional women in Nigeria as the first ever female CEO of Cadbury Nigeria, which is over 50 years old. And she's somebody who rose through the ranks to break infamous glass ceiling. She wasn't an expert who was brought in from outside. So for many reasons, Oyeyimika, I'm very delighted. I have a lot of young proteges who asked me to let you know that seeing your example has really made a difference to them. So Oyeyimika, you also have a background in professional services, just like JP, in non-governmental organizations and philanthropy. So please feel free to expand your answer to cover the other sectors that you're involved in. I want to refer to a survey carried out by senior editors at Harvard Business Review and Carol Kaufman of Harvard Medical School in 2009. What they discovered was that the main reason organizations hire coaches is to develop high potential staff or to facilitate transition to higher leadership positions or greater responsibilities. I know my fellow executive and leadership coaches in ICF Nigeria often find themselves coaching new leaders, sometimes to fill in gaps in soft skills like public speaking, often to improve their communication skills with peers and subordinates, or to transition from doing the work themselves to delivering results through other people. And frequently, it's to become more effective in stakeholder engagement as opposed to the technical aspects of your job. So we've also found that very often leadership coaching is offered as part of a development plan for succession into executive ranks. So leadership succession is a major, major issue for most organizations in Nigeria. What role, if any, has coaching played in Cadbury Nigeria's success in this regard, as we're talking about its leadership succession in its CEO role? How has coaching helped?
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you very much for having me today. I'm not a professional coach, but by virtue of my job over the years, I've found myself coaching either naturally or because of the way the system is set up. So I work for a multinational. My holding company is called Mondelez. We operate from about 70 countries. We operate through what is called a functional and category structure. That means that there are a lot of people in our business who don't physically see their bosses. By the way, what everyone's going through now has been normal for me for probably about 8 or 10 years, because we operate functional means that your boss is never here. Your boss is somewhere out there. You're communicating with your boss virtually all the time. And as a result of that, and that's what I wanted to point out that has been a benefit for us, is because you're working remotely, you're working with people who you are naturally having to coach without seeing them, because that's the only way you're going to get results. You're not there managing by walking around or having physical contact. You are there, when the person connects with you, they want to ask you a question or they're doing something and they need clarification. So most of the time, you're like the virtual coach, hand-holding that person and making sure that they can deliver the result without being their boss at the same time. The one thing that our business has done very well, which I like, you touched on, I like what you touched on, there's a plan. And the one thing we've done very well is to marry coaching and mentoring together. So okay. Most of our people, in terms of structure, you have a coach and you have a mentor. They're never the same people. And we've been very clear to explain to our colleagues to say, coaching and mentoring are not the same thing. Your coach, and you said it, is the person that's hand-holding you, guiding you, cheering you and asking you questions and prompting you. Whereas your mentor, your relationship with your mentor is totally different. You don't have a reporting responsibility with your mentor. Your personal relationship is different. the things you expect out of a mentor is different from what you expect out of your coach. So we do both. But by virtue of the way that the business is structured, we naturally have coaching. And a lot of us, myself included, have gone through Train the Trainer. That's why I said I'm not a professional coach, but I've been forced to do it. Gone to Train the Trainer on how to coach, particularly our colleagues who work with us in our teams and are working remotely. So, you know, there's that natural coaching that is embedded in your job anyway. And then on top of that is something that you've mentioned as part of career growth and development, there's coaching that is also structured. So for me personally, probably over the last 5 years, I've had 3 different coaches, each doing different things for me through my career. So, you know, I've had coaching on more on managing people. Today I have coaching on how, you know, in fact, I brought my coaching contract with me to say, you know, what did I say? So I had my current coaching is more about me not being too much of an extrovert and, you know, listening more and talking less, you know. How do I do that with people, particularly in our environment where, you know, you have to balance the culture with the reality of what you see and how you should operate or how you should manage with people. So in terms of my coaching contract, for example, my coach is from Netherlands. She doesn't understand my culture. So when I say things, she would ask me, well, why did you say that to her? And I said, well, here we do X, Y, Z. I said, okay, well, in that case, you know, so, you know, I think it's very important for organizations to embed this as part of a person's career ongoing. You know, I don't think coaching is something you do once and then, you know, you've mastered it and then you move on. There's always more for you to do. So for us, it came out naturally from the structure of our organization. And so that's what I call the informal structure and how it's benefited us. And formally through your career plan and through what we call the strategic talent review process. So the strategic talent review process is say, we identify people, we look at their career path and where they want to be or where we believe they can be, and then determine what are the things that they need to do. And coaching may or may not be. So it's not always that, you know, coaching is always there, but it may be one of the things we recommend to say this person needs coaching. And once you identify it, you then go through a contractual relationship to say how much coaching, who should be your coach, what should be the focus, and so on and so forth, which I'm sure most of the people on this call know.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question. You know, when we more and more, not the multinational, so the large national organizations, so the first time they really stump for an executive coach is when they've got an in-house person that they want to promote to either CEO or ED, and the person can technically do the job, but simply is not prepared in so many other aspects to be the face and the voice of the organization. Has that, so I know you're saying in Cadbury that you have a very structured process, both formal and informal, that incorporates coaching where it is identified that it's a good developmental intervention. But is there a role for coaching, like when you've been identified as the successor for as a potential successor, let's put it this way, for the managing director role, would you automatically be assigned a coach? And were you assigned a coach when you were making that transition?
Okay, so yes, I was assigned a coach, but like I said, even in my role as finance director, and I was in that role for 8 years, in those 8 years, I had 3 coaches.
Yeah.
So I think as your career goes, you know, as you progress in your career and as things start changing in terms of what is expected out of you. So, you know, as a finance professional in my earlier years, yes, technical competence and all that, but, you know, the more you get into your role as a finance person, the less the technical is important, the more the people, the culture, the, you know, external stakeholders, how you handle all sorts of things that are not even finance related become more important. Yes. So you might need a coach for that. I've had in the last 2 years, I've had 2 different coaches, each serving 2 totally different purposes for me. And it was very important to have that split, because one was what I call the soft skill, which you had mentioned before, and that was deliberately, I'll say, forced on me, because I initially said I didn't need it. You know, when I was told, oh, we're getting you a coach for X, Y, Z, I said, but I don't need that. That's me naturally. I said, you know, that's what you think. We know who you are. We see you. We know what you need. and we believe you should go through this. And I must confess, maybe because I was a bit skeptical in my first session, I sort of like did the blah, blah, blah. But when my coach started talking and asking me questions, I realized, oh, okay, they probably do have a point. And it worked out fine. And because both were serving two different purposes for me, it's been very useful. I guess for me, the only confusion I had was, I then had a mentor in between these two coaches.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll get into my coaching session and I'll start thinking, I take notes, but I'm thinking, wasn't this something that I touched during my mentoring session? And, my coach would say, no, we didn't talk about this. And then I have to repeat it, and then I see the relevance of it. But yes, deliberately, my company did assign me two coaches, like I said, both serving two different purposes. And today I can say that they actually did achieve what they were meant to do for me.
Okay, so you said your current coach is from the Netherlands. Have you been coached by a Nigerian?
I have been coached by a Nigerian, yes.
Okay.
And interestingly, it was also virtual.
Okay.
It was also virtual. So, I don't think any of my coaches, apart from one in my career, have been face-to-face physical. All my coaches were on.
Okay. All right. So I'll come back to you in your closing comments about who is better, Nigerian or French. Since we understand the culture, just for that reason. Okay. So coming back to our participants, thank you so much, Emika. Coming back to our participants, please type in the chat. For those of you who are interested or who are engaged in executive leadership and business coaching, where do you think executive leadership and business coaches should be focusing their efforts right now? Because if you haven't realized, right now, there's a massive window of opportunity for coaching, especially for people on the executive side, and actually on the life side even more. So let's start on the executive side. Where do you think coaches should be focusing their efforts right now in terms of what value do you think they should be adding? Some professions and industries have been eliminated in the short term. For example, just think about event management, think about makeup artists, think about the Ajibola, tailors, and so on. Events and everything related to it that business has just disappeared completely. It eliminated the behavioral social changes forced on us by the COVID-19 crisis. One industry that has surged or be transformed fully into online formats is learning and development. In fact, everybody is going to learning and development, including the banks, every big institution, they're all doing online courses and webinars and so on. So it's now common to find coaches involved in most leadership and other executive education programs. We're delighted to have with us the executive in residence of Lagos Business School, Dr. Emmanuel Imafidon. Indeed, as he shared during his profile, he is the school's academic director, the academic director of Lagos Business School's coaching services program. From my own personal experience managing coaching and mentoring program for National Leadership Development Program for leaders, and for data collected at the IMD Business School, the positive impact of coaching on participants completing feedback 6 months after they have completed their executive MBA is evident both in the scores for the program and in their comments. So Emmanuel, LBS, Lagos Business School, recently initiated a partnership with ICF Nigeria to offer coaching services to participants in your programs. What drove this?
Okay, thank you. You hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Just to thank ICF for getting me on the panel this evening. And it's been about 3-4 months now that I've been a kind of journey with ICF, met very engaging people, very interesting people. Not a certified coach, neither a credentialed coach, although Adora will want to see something different from that. Yes, LBS got across to ICF about 4 months ago to try to get into some form of partnership to get coaching services from elements of ICF for the participants in our executive education programs, as well as our executive MBA programs. a few things drove this. One, the participants themselves wanted this. Over the years, when they take insights from the learning that they are getting from LBS and try to ingrain that in the context of their organizational experience, their personal development journeys and all of that, they will see opportunities that require people to help handhold them through certain things. So over time, LBS has tried to provide that kind of service in some form of fashion. But given the scale that we see that the thing is ready to grow into, we decided to reach out to a professional body like ICF to get real experienced professionals that can help us handle these guys. Secondly, LBS itself, apart from the participants, LBS itself, just looking at the careers of folks who come there, the things you hear from them and all of that, just felt that we needed to reach out to give a safe space for these folks that come to the school to test ideas and take confidence in taking action on those ideas outside the environment of their everyday work. Sometimes they tug at the faculty of LBS, but the faculty is primarily focused on teaching, research, and stuff like that. And sometimes they don't have the bandwidth to follow up on individual cases. So that was another driver on our part to just say, let's reach out for help that can improve the overall offering and experience of these folks when they come to LBS. Again, if you look around everywhere in the world, the top line business schools now have coaching, executive coaching, as part of their offerings in one form or fashion. And that is because of the value and credibility that executive coaching has brought to table when you consider the totality of the learning that such business schools want to extend to participants in their programs. I think another thing that kind of created impetus for it was research. There's research that suggests that senior executives, executive management, high potential folks, they prefer executive coaching as a learning platform ahead of things like classroom, experiential learning, blended learning, and all the other forms of learning. Research upon research, if you go to the out there, you'll find a lot of research outcomes that support that executive coaching. It's a preferred learning format for these kind of folks. And those are the kind of folks that come to LBS. And so from these different considerations, we felt that we should reach out to ICF for help. And we think it's going to be an interesting journey.
Oh, great. I'm looking forward. I hope I'll be one of the coaches that are selected to work with the LBS.
No, we won't take from Holland for sure. But
no, really, ICF Nigeria, we're very, very excited about this. You know, we've worked very hard to make sure that we identify the properly certified and credentialed coaches in Nigeria, so that when people, there are many people who call themselves coaches, not all of them are ICF members, many of them are good, but at least there's one place that you can come to if you don't want to do the homework by yourself, to be sure the coaches you're getting are the certified coaches. So thank you very much for Lagos Business School for choosing ICF Nigeria to partner with. So as part of our, I didn't realize time had gone so far. So we're going to go to our concluding round now. I'll just ask you to answer very, very briefly. You know, as part of your concluding remarks, I would like you to answer one more question and ask a question of your own. And we'll do this in the order in which I asked you the question. So JP first, and then we'll move on. Number one, would you recommend coaching to a peer organization? So an organization like yours, would you recommend coaching to a peer organization, and why? And the other question is, what issue or question would you like ICF Nigeria to address? So that's a question from you to us. What issue or question would you like ICF Nigeria to address? So JP, we'll start with you for your concluding remarks.
Habiba. Okay, so would I recommend coaching to a peer organization? You're preaching to the converted. I'm a crusader for coaching, and, you know, crusader for coaching both in Nigeria and outside Nigeria, because of the benefits that I highlighted earlier. You asked a question earlier on as well about, what would coaches do at this particular point in time? I think right now is really crisis management, is being able to think diversely. When you're under pressure, anxiety, you tend to make decisions that are fight or flight. They're usually directive, short mind span decisions. So it's really to help the leader get centered, to help them understand that the way they show up. I think Emeka mentioned it, that you only know yourself, you cannot be your own mirror. The way you show up in your environment is very different from the way that you think you show up. So the coach would help you to act as that mirror and identify what drives the behavior that people see on the outside. So, for me, coaching it should be an integral part of many organizations' personal development plan, and also strategic development plan as well, not just personal. So I would recommend coaching in a nutshell. So the other question, what question would I ask? What would ICF address? Is really just to continue to standardize coaching as a profession and prevent any brand cannibalization. We do, as you said, have a lot of coaches out there, is to really advocate and educate the consumers of coaching about the essence of coaching and why you need an accredited coach. It's a profession and not just something that you do because you are a good speaker, you're a motivational speaker, or you have a lot of people who follow you and who you talk to and mentor. So for me, it's driving the value, the business value of leadership, executive, life coaching to the consuming public.
Thank you very much, JP. So over to you, Ben. Would you recommend coaching to a peer organization, and why? And what question do you have for us? Okay.
I would say that definitely I recommend coaching to a peer organization. And I'm glad Oyeyimika is here from Cadbury, because we are peers and we learn from each other just by chatting. So she listens to my story, I listen to her story. So that's really like recommending to each other. Coaching is not a competitive tool. It's not the thing that we go to fight in the market. It's the back office that delivers a great performance in the market. And by doing that, we enhance capability that is in the country, that is in the market, and we are all picking that from that pool of capability anyway. So the coaching that I do is as important as the coaching that Cadbury does or Coca-Cola or any other company, because we share, the same people share a lot of learning to each other. And to your second question, what should ICF Nigeria address? To me, the main thing is that there is no made in Nigeria coaching. Coaching is coaching, and it should be good whether it is in Nigeria, for Nigeria, or anywhere in the world, so that we ensure that the people that we coach and that we develop are applicable across the world. Sometimes this thing, you find even some people who are doing very great when they are outside, when they come here, something changes them again and they kind of become, oh, we are in Nigeria now. It's just to really bring the standards to world-class level and stick at that. That's what I would say.
Great, thank you so much. So Oyeyimika?
So definitely would recommend it. Like I said, it's part of the structure for us as a business, and for me personally, and Ben has said it, the reality is that in our sector particularly, there's so little you can do if you're not well coached. I think, it's, for me, I'll say it's an ingredient for success, and you can't do away without it. You can't do without it, rather. What would I say? Ask of your organization. Actually, I would be asking something totally different, and I hope I'm not being contrarian to what you're expecting, because this might not earn you fees. We are recruiting, and we're looking for people, and we're looking for the best people. And honestly, when we interview people, I marvel at, the gap, particularly locally in Nigeria. I'm fortunate to be on interview panels when we're interviewing for bigger functions out of Nigeria, and I see candidates who I say, oh, the only difference between candidate A and candidate B is because of their background and what they haven't been exposed to. So my ask of you is, how can you get your coaching skills to the younger generation? That's probably 70% of the employable population in Nigeria who haven't even had access to coaching at all, and probably may never do as they start their career because they're at the lower level and maybe there for quite a while. How do we get them coached? Because they really do need it as they grow their careers. We've said it. When organizations invest in coaching, they invest because you're already at a certain level, yes, and they know that you're going to get, they need to groom you for something bigger. But the young, NYC graduate that's just joined your company and maybe at the junior level for 3 years and then move to another level for another 5 years, by the time they are facing a coach or having the opportunity to be coached, they'll be 10, 15 years into their career. And I think the formative years of their career are so important for coaching. So my ask of you is, how do you get coaching to the much younger professionals who are just starting their careers and who I think they need it more than we do sometimes, actually.
Okay.
That would be it. And your question about whether Nigeria, or honestly, everyone that I've had as a coach have been fantastic. Okay. Very professional, very straight to the point, and extremely patient with someone like me, actually. Okay. So I can't say Nigerian or non-Nigerian. You've all been very good.
Okay, so thank you very much, and thank you for the challenge you're throwing to us. We will throw it back to you because we're going to come back to you and ask you how we can get organizations to invest in coaching for their junior ranks, right? So we'll come back to you for that. And Emmanuel, the final word from you.
Yeah, I would certainly recommend executive coaching, particularly because of the current environment we are operating in. We talked about the technological groundswell that was happening around us before COVID came on top of it. On top of those two things are the economic shocks that we have experienced in Nigeria, the dislocations that we're going to get on account of 90% of our earnings going down cannot really be fathomed at this time. So you have executives managing businesses, leading people. New capabilities are required. And I think it's not just teaching and all of that that we do it, but coaching, hand-holding them. How do you get them to be more keenly aware about themselves, being humble and vulnerable, not being ashamed to be vulnerable before people? Many people don't like that. Yeah. How do you get them to demonstrate empathy? In silos, okay? Yes. You guys say, I'm a coach, I'm not a mentor, I'm not a therapist, and all of that. But the new environment we are operating in with a lot of folks stressed, including myself.
Yes.
If I get a coach, you got to be everything to me. How are you going to respond to that?
Okay, thank you. Wow, okay. So thank you all very, very much, my panelists. I'm going to hand over to back to ICF Nigeria to take us onto the final stage of this this has been an amazing interaction. So I think, who am I handing over to? Is it Larry or Yonju?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much, Habiba. Thank you so much, all our panelists. I think you have done a fantastic job. If you see the chat section, there's so many questions, so many comments. We appreciate all your contributions. It has really, really been an amazing session. Of course, we wish we had more time, but time is fast spent. All of the requests that we made of ICF Nigeria will be considered. So at this time, I'll just hand over to Adora for closing remarks. And thank you for everybody that's joined us. Yes.
We have some questions.
We have some questions, yes, Larry.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a few questions that we can take.
Yeah.
Two
questions actually that I picked up. The first is from Florence and is directed at ICF Nigeria. Do you have any coaches in Nigeria nominating companies for the PRISM Award? So Florence is asking if we have coaches in Nigeria nominating some companies for the ICF Prism Award. Would anyone like to take that? Yeah.
I know that we had some coaches in the past who had identified some companies that were doing really amazing things with coaching. I wanted to nominate them, but I'm not aware of the current situation. So we can look into that and get back to you.
Yes. Yeah. All right. I've noted that, and we'll get back to you, Florence Amis Indirago. The second question is from Ayuba Gazzama, and he says that while coaching is immensely critical to developing employees, as can be seen a lot of multinationals in particular, how do you embed coaching in an indigenous company that is not used to such a culture? Coaching is part of multinationals, and they've had the experience in embedding it into part of the business. That how do you embed coaching in an indigenous company that is not used to such a culture?
So we're throwing this to our panelists, right?
Yes, we would like the panelists to please take any suggestions from Oyeyimika.
Sorry, I got distracted.
Okay, that's fine. So one of the participants is asking, how do you embed coaching in an indigenous company? Because it seems like it's the multinational companies that are used to having coaching. Any thoughts from you? And then we'll hear from Ben as well.
I don't think it's about multinational. I think it's about the management and what the management believes in and how they want to invest in their people. I think, if you can show the benefit of coaching, it really doesn't matter whether you're a multinational or indigenous company, you will do it. It really depends on how well it is sold. My belief is that when people know the benefit, your people are your biggest asset. If you don't train your people, it's like having machines in your factory and not having them serviced. It would dysfunction. So whether you're local or international, you need to train your people. And coaching is one very big, important element of training. You can't just spend money, put your people in a classroom or say, oh, they'll learn on the job. If you don't sit them down and oil the wheels of their thought process, which is very important. So I think it's just making sure that we sell the benefit of this to indigenous companies. And I don't want to make a general statement because I do work with a few indigenous companies who do coach their people. I know companies that are owned by Nigerians that do coach their people. So I don't want to make that statement as general because it's a bit too broad a statement.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Adeboye. JP will come to you. Okay, yes. I just wanted a little perspective from Ben, because we have somebody from Zambia who's also dropped a related question. Yes, Ben, and they will come to you.
So I have a perspective on embedding that coaching on local companies, and it's a challenge I throw back to ICF. If you can come back with something, a measure like return on coaching index, something like that, which picks certain measures from companies that use coaching, and it will come to me, it will go to Oyeyimika, it will go to different companies, measuring both the hard and soft facts and look at it again as the return on it. That way, you can be able to differentiate when selling out this idea of coaching to some of the companies that don't use it, that actually look at it in the long term, it gives you a positive return. And the other thing also, it goes back to what I said before, that there's really no local or international coaching. It's just coaching, and the right way of coaching needs to be made very clear. Most of these local companies, they do very well at the beginning, and they get caught up with size. As they grow, they get to the issue of now having difficulty with managing scale. So if it is something that you keep putting up there, like a banner very clearly, and selling it like almost like Dow Jones index or US dollar index like that, it will make a big difference.
Thank you very much. JP, your thoughts?
Okay, so I think Ben has sort of stolen my thoughts there. It's for us to be able to show the value in the language that organizations understand. organizations understand bottom line, impact on profitability. You know, if we can show the link between what we do with coaching at executive leadership, even career level, to the bottom line, I think, you know, the decision makers will listen. Now, there was a project that was done by the Africa Executive Coaching Council, where it was a very detailed study where we took executives from the finance sector in East Africa. But Nankonde from Zambia was on that project. I was there, and a couple of other coaches in Nigeria, joined by other African coaches. And they were able to show, I mean, we use tools, we use psychometrics, you know, various approaches that was able to show the value, the incremental value of coaching, because we had the pre-coaching measurements and then we had the post-coaching impact. And it was clear from that study, the detailed study, I can make it available. I think, you know, I've actually shared it sometime in the past. So those sort of studies where, you know, you can actually see pre-post and you can tie that to either increase in sales, increase in revenue, then they will start listening because there's empirical evidence. Then the other thing that I have to say is that for ICF to also, for us to be able to present to organizations and HR as well, that training, you cannot learn to change behavior in a training session, in a 3-hour, 8-hour session. Behavior cannot change because, as I mentioned earlier, behavior is tied to so many, you know, sometimes psychological, emotional, it's anchored and it's a longitudinal process. For you to form a habit, it takes weeks. So for you to break the habit, it will take weeks as well. So coaching gives you, it's just for me, for HR to realize that, you know, a lot of them, I keep hearing HR directors say, we have spent millions on leadership development. We've sent them to Harvard, we've sent them to Cranfield, but we're not seeing the change in behavior. So they know that there's something missing. And, you know, when we're able to present coaching in time learning as an option, as an alternative that works, sometimes, you know, they listen. And then for Ayuba that asked the question, I know why he's asking that question, you know, maybe for you to get a sample case and get them to experience coaching and, you know, again, take the pre-measures, you know, take what happens 6 months later, and then you can now use that as your own internal business case to push it to the management and decision makers within your organization. So those are the 3 things that I have to add.
Thank you very much, JP. And just like answer was posed to Ayuba, that maybe even the leaders in the organization need to experience coaching themselves, because there's nothing that sells coaching like someone who's experienced it. Yoju, do we have any other burning question we can take before we round up?
No, there are some questions around joining ICF, which we've answered in the chat box, and we would also place the LinkedIn page to ICF Nigeria as there as well. Yeah. Okay.
So I see from Uche Azubike saying, asking if ICF is able to take a lead in addressing the issues caused by COVID. Yes, and I think that as ICF, there's been things that have been done, but there are many issues that are caused by COVID. I don't know if any of our trustees or other board members will want to have something to say to that. But for those who have said they're interested in joining ICF, please check out the website or reach out to any of the ICF members through whom you may have received this invitation.
Yeah. I mean, all I'd like to say about this is that I think coaches should reach out to HR managers, HR directors of organizations right now, because they are on the hot seat. They really are. If this COVID has had a really terrible impact on the way we work, on job security, on occupational safety. They're having to advise CEOs on how to communicate with staff. They're having to meet with the board members. I think most HR directors are not really prepared for that role. It's really thrust their function right into the most critical function right now. So I think if you can reach out to HR directors, I think that would be a good contribution as a body.
Okay, thank you very much, Habiba. Thank you. So ICF Nigeria, we're here as a body to support, of course, to support Nigeria. And it's, of course, indeed a great pleasure to have all of you. Hand over to Adora, they are president.
Hello, thank you so very much, Landre, and thank you to all our panelists. It's really been a pleasure listening to all the comments and reading all the chats. To everyone who has joined from all over, locally and internationally, we say thank you very much. A lot of interesting points have emerged. You know, 4 major ones that really resonated as I was listening to the panelists is the fact that coaching is not what you do, but it's who you are. And, you know, everyone needs a coach. Even a coach needs a coach. It was also interesting to listen to the point about how coaching can deliver results and how, in order to increase the level of performance for individuals, coaching will play a huge role. And that will in turn translate to increased performance for the business as well. Another interesting point that was raised was how you can incorporate coaching as part of your strategic talent review process. And definitely the big takeaway is that coaching is a critical ingredient to success. Now more than ever, because of the disruption, because of the dislocation and the new competencies required at this time, coaching will play a huge role. I'm also very excited to speak about the fact that as part of our gift of coaching, we are going to be engaging with over 100 individuals across different organizations, and we're going to be giving them the gift of coaching at different levels, whether HR directors, managers, and different levels of individuals. They're going to benefit from the gift of coaching at this very unprecedented and crisis period. The advice given to ICF, that has been taken very much well on board, and I want to say thank you. With regards to standards, that's what ICF is all about. ICF is all about standards, and we are the gold standard. In fact, if you're looking for a coach, because of all the market dilution and confusion, the best place to come to is the International Coaching Federation. And I commend the Lagos Business School for partnering with us, because you can be certain that you're going to be engaging coaches who are actually bound to very strict ethics, guidelines, and are required to acquire a huge set of competencies. So indeed, ICF coaches can bring about that transformational shift even at this time. So a huge thank you to everyone, to our esteemed panelists once again, to the moderator, Habiba, thank you, to our ICW organizing committee and our chairperson, Mr. Landre Onasanya, and of course to everyone that has taken the time out to join us this evening. We want to say thank you. The gift of coaching will be redeemed. In the next 24 hours, we're going to be sending our reminder emails to those who actually indicated their interest. So thank you very much. We're taking up the challenge to look at probably a project on return of coaching index, and of course, how to actually extend our coaching to even the younger generation. So all the comments have been well noted, and I say thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening, and please take care and stay safe. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here.
A big thank you to all our sponsors.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye now.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ICF.
Thank you.
Many thanks
to you, ICF. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, JP.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Sponsors, Richella Consulting, AJC.
Thank you very much.
Well done, Habiba. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
Thank
everyone.
you so much.
Well done, Habiba.
For giving us the opportunity.
Well done, guys.
Thank you, HC.
Super panelists.
Thank you, ICF.
Our panelists.
Thank you, ICF.
Blessings.
Thank you.